Hello and welcome back to Rage Gaming and more Diablo 4 Season 7. Today we're going to be discussing the state of the classes in Season 7, who's kind of come out on top. Now interestingly, in the last few days the answer might have been different, but after a small hotfix patch, Druid took a rather expected hit to stop its damage scaling beyond reason, to the point where we'd been seeing negative numbers again, even in the live game, even after that happened in the PTR. So Druid's taken a big hit, but it's still very powerful. I'm going to talk about where it stands compared to the other classes too. We're basing this off the most reliable source we can right now, which is the classes and their top pit clears at the moment. The pit, of course, caps out at tier 150, and it has been said before that no class should actually be clearing that in terms of what they plan for the balance. We've never really seen that come true though. Some classes are apparently about where they should be. But, you know, every season, there's one or multiple classes that are ungodly strong by comparison. So let's get into it, starting from the bottom with the lowest pit clear right now from Spiritborn of all things, with just a tier 100 clear by the player Friendly Cheater. The boss was killed successfully with just over 2 minutes left on the clock, so I think it's fair to say that Spiritborn should be able to get a few more tiers above this, especially after a little bit of time to get some power scaling in, you know, proper glyphs, witch power setups, occult gems. There's a lot of grinding to be done in this season. And the thing is, they told us in Spiritborn's case that it was really strong in the PTR, with what I believe would have been about a 120 or 130 showing on live. They told us said power level is about where they want all classes to be, like I said in that intro. But the reason Spiritborn performed so well in the PTR was because of a bug that they fixed for the live version of the game. So naturally, its power has dipped by a significant amount with that, down to a tier 100 being its current top clear. I don't think that's where they should be ideally, or where all classes even should be. So it would suggest at this point then, Spiritborn is the weakest class of the season for the moment, after, you know, being by far the strongest in Season 6. Moving forward, the fifth highest clear then, we have Sorcerer with a 113 pit clear. This was achieved by the player Zaramos, who managed the run with a full 3 minutes left on the clock. So once again, I'd say this means that the very same player in the same build should be able to achieve, say, a 114, but given time to collect more power, maybe a between 115 to 120 is possible. That's again where they seem to want the average power to be, about a 120 to 130. So Sorcerer is actually relatively well balanced on paper. The problem again is that there are some classes that are well beyond what they seem to want. But there is some good news here in my opinion. Sorcerer has this weird awkward concept called the shatter fishing build, where you need, say, the final boss to have adds in that pit fight. This lets you set up the potent output that comes with having multiple targets in the fight. The issue is that that build concept was only really functional in the context of that pit, and it would need a specific boss fight that actually had adds. So, for the best build for a little while there, they had to reset the run if it didn't spawn with the right RNG in the first place. That's why I'm pleased to say that the player we're watching here is using a kind of ball lightning setup, which should be a lot more universal and functional outside of the pit too. We are planning to cover the top builds for the season in better detail with a video about all that soon, but this would suggest that Sorcerer may have even escaped now the shatter fishing silliness, and yeah, is about where the devs seem to want the class power to be. But next up, we have our last class in the seeming right power level the devs are looking for, and it's Rogue, with a tier 120 clear by the player Zhang Zikyu. I'm sorry that my pronunciation of that is probably terrible, and unfortunately this footage was posted on the website Bilibili, so I can't get good quality footage of this run. What I can tell you is that the kill happened with just under 8 minutes left on the clock, which suggests even right now, the same player could push higher tiers with success. So we give them more time, and I'd expect Rogue to reach 125, or maybe at one point, even 130. Another player that's right behind that, this footage we're looking at, is by a player called JJ Rogue, who is right behind in the rankings, just with slightly better footage to look at. Now the PTR showed massive potential for the ultimate build for Rogues, Rain of Arrows, but they nerfed its scaling due to some bugs. We did think that the new update to Shadow Clone would have a big impact on what the Rogues are going to run this season, but the top two players right now are in fact using an interesting mix of Twisting Blades with Rain of Arrows. So it still turned out to be very strong indeed. The ones trying the Shadow Clone stuff seem to have much slower clears by comparison. Either way, the potential 130 clear for the class is solid, and I think it's right on the head of what is planned for the average power of classes. Rogue has been a solid, reliable option for most seasons of the game, with a middle of the pack showing or even top showings fairly regularly. So whoever balances Rogues, I think they do a great job. But now let's move to the top three where things go beyond maybe what they plan once again. Starting with Barbarian with a pit clear of 140 by the player Beat Dropper. Now compared to what we've said so far, this clear was close. With about 19 seconds left on the clock, the clear was just achieved. Is this then going to be about the cap for the class? Well, I'm not convinced of that, but I don't think it's going to go crazy after that. As of right now, they recently improved the Restless Rot drops, and you know, the amount of gem fragments you need to farm for the best occult gem setup is stupid. So with more time, I think slightly higher clear is going to be possible. Maybe something like a 141 or 142, slightly higher than that maybe, but we're going to have to see. But as you might have expected, this of course involves the updated Earthquake setup for Barbarian with that unique chest, Mantle of the Mountain's Fury. In short, you create earthquakes, you stand in them, you get increased output, then triggering those earthquakes to pop for big damage by slamming a Hammer of the Ancients through it results in big output. Tie that in with all kinds of multipliers, like say they're using Bash to generate guaranteed overpowers for that, and other multipliers and scaling. The results speak for themselves. Is this busted and broken though? I actually don't think so. I think it's pretty solid. It's just a classic case of Barbarian and the ridiculous amount of multipliers that they can achieve with all the extra aspects and so on for the class. Personally, I think the best classes of a season should be clearing about a 140 plus, with 150 being like the ultimate goal that only certain ones can achieve, depending on who's the strongest that season. So Barbarian, I think, is in a really good spot, which is kind of similar for Druid post-nerf. Druid was achieving such comical stacked up damage due to a bug with one of the witch powers, where they were still seeing minus numbers on screen on live, like I said. Now that hotfix is in place, they've obviously taken a big hit, but they're still second on this list. That's because of a druid by the name of Lang Men Yun, which again, probably butchered that name there, unfortunately, sorry. This druid player achieved a tier 140 clear with slightly more time less than the Barbarian, but it was very close between them. I'm gonna have some footage on screen with a lower clear that's slightly higher quality to look at though, because again, that was posted on Bilibili where I can't up the quality. Either way, Cataclysm is still the obvious top pick even after the nerf. Every top clear has druid using it as part of the core of the build. But you know, there were quite a few build options going into the season with potential behind them outside of just Cataclysm. We didn't know what would turn out after how buggy things were on that PTR, only for it to be very bugged out again in the live version with the Cataclysm build. So I'm happy to see that their power is still high after that change, and they're still up there in the classes. This seems a lot more, well, just reasonable. But despite that, the top spot goes to the very expected, outside of bugs anyway, Necromancer, with of course the Shadow Wave build. There are currently 2 top 150 clears for this class and build though, by the players Makuna and King Pig, with King Pig holding the world first and Makuna actually with a slightly faster time. What's nice about this is the fact that it doesn't seem bugged or broken though, but maybe intended for the current season. In fact, the devs spoke about how Druid's situation was clearly bugged and will be addressed, and now they've done that, they're sort of watching Necromancer, but let it slide through that patch. So I don't think it, at least in their opinion, is a problem right now. And it might be the case that their overall balancing plans might want classes to be around a 130 on average. But it's funny because if you look back at Season 6 with how busted and broken Spiritborn was last season, they were well beyond 150 as a cap in potential. This doesn't even compare to that. It's seemingly functioning as intended, it's just maybe overly strong relative to the other classes. So yeah, it makes you wonder how things are going to turn out in Season 8 balance-wise. Let me know what you guys think. Would you like it if everyone was able to clear about the same pit level with maybe 1 or 2 slightly ahead around 130 level and above? Or do you prefer it when 1 or 2 classes are just clearly above the rest and maybe everyone just plays those? Personally, I just want whatever's going to be most fun for the season, and I can't say I know exactly what that is. I do think if you overbalance stuff, you kind of ruin the fun, and it's nice to have a class kind of have its king of the season moment, and then next season it's a bit different. But I also find it bad when the top option is one that's clearly using bugs to do it. So this actually doesn't seem that bad at all to me. But yeah, that's my overview of where things stand early into the season. Let's see how things change over the coming days. For now, I've been Hollow, you've been you, thanks for watching.
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.